so many of us, right, have worked with clients to set up incrementality tests, or have kind of like know it's something that needs to happen, and know the value of them, but you kind of, I think the model has been you take it and you hand it off to somebody, say, hey, run this for me. And I think we're now in the phase of let's understand this more completely of what this actually does. When people go about setting up, you talked about some of the common errors that you see, and you talked about setting expectations. What are the things that you're talking through? Like, these are the expectations. The expectations are we're hoping that a channel is more incremental than we think, or we hope there's more connection between this connected TV and this. It's like, what are some of those things you're walking through with people?
Yeah. First, I like to say that the only bad test is an inconclusive test. Even if we were to say test Facebook and it's not as incremental as we thought, I wouldn't necessarily say that's a bad thing. It's just a learning that we can operationalize. So maybe that means we split budgets out somewhere else. But to kind of bring this all back to your question, I think what it really comes down to is trying to understand what do we get after? Are we just trying to understand how effective Facebook is? Are we are we trying to quantify our maybe even like linear TV spend, something that's incredibly hard to figure out, or CTV? YouTube is a common example for me. And so there's a lot we can get into. But I think the first couple of things are what are we trying to answer, and then how understanding the why the test is structured a certain way. I think a lot of people get scared when you say we're going to hold out a portion of your reach. I would argue unless you're spending millions of dollars, it's not a big deal. But we can walk through some of that math for you to make sure
I
that
mean,
it doesn't impact the business. But
yeah, what
sorry.
do you tell people? I mean, I've heard answers from you guys and from other vendors that do stuff too. Like, what do you tell people generally? I'm just curious of your personal answer of like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
look, like we're not going to show ads to people. What do you mean?
Yeah, I think one of the things I go back to, and my numbers are might show my age, is the idea of like 10 years ago, a 1% lookalike on Facebook was like 1.2 million people.
Right.
The second you optimize for purchase, you're serving to maybe 15% of that audience, roughly. And so ultimately what I end up saying is there are very few advertisers out there who are reaching the entire platform with their media dollars. And
Yeah.
so holding out a couple percentages isn't going shouldn't make or break your business. The other thing, and I wish we had some screenshots in the deck, is when you run it through our tool, we'll specifically show you what regions we think should be held out. And the way we do it is by creating what we call digital twins of some of your most impactful regions.
Hmm.
The example we used internally during one of our trainings was perhaps DFW behaves a lot like Philadelphia, and so we will just hold out Philadelphia. I took huge offense to that, being from Dallas and a Cowboys fan. But that's the general idea is we can find large DMAs that maybe do a ton of your volume and match them to smaller DMAs that don't really do a ton for you day to day and still get quantifiable results out of it.
I think so much of it is having it in one place is huge, right? And I'm going to get back to that in a minute, but before I do, meaning what I mean by that is that all of the testing and everything is within Northbeam, the tool you're already using. It makes it so much easier. You don't have to be a Northbeam user to run an incrementality test with you guys, but it sure makes it a heck of a lot easier. We'll get to that in a minute. But there's been these things from Meta, or Google, about sort of lift testing, like Meta's conversion lift study, or Google's experiments. How does this compare to those? I mean, obviously it's more robust in terms of the test. The ongoing monitoring is a huge one. What are other ways that this compares to those?
In terms of outcomes, it's actually pretty much the same. Like we're all trying to measure the same thing. It's the differences are in how we go about it. And I have nothing against Facebook. I'm going to pick on them a little bit here. I think it's awesome that they have self-serve lift testing. The problem then becomes, how do I take my Facebook lib test results and compare that to what I see on Google? Because the methodologies are different, they're not necessarily comparable. We could maybe do some like back of the napkin math if we have a relatively simple media mix. But the second things get into like 3 or 4 different channels, it becomes a lot more important to have tests that you can repeat across platforms. Even if the holdouts are slightly different, as long as the methodology is the same, then we're on an equal playing field when comparing different platforms, strategies, whatever.